Hey folks, Robbie Payne with Chrome Unbox coming at you today with a review of the ASUS C300. As most of you are astutely aware of already, the ASUS C300 is running the Baytrail processor. So this is one of the new ones in the line of Baytrail Chromebooks that we're going to see, which is Intel's more mobilely optimized Haswell class processor. It is fanless by design, doesn't need all that kind of stuff going on. Not quite as powerful as the Celeron or i3 varieties, but at the same time, it is supposed to be a little less power hungry. And so those are kind of the trade-offs we always look at when we look at processors. A little bit less power means a little bit less uh, battery drain. And so that's kind of the promise of Baytrail. This is one of the first Chromebooks with it. There also is the ASUS C200 version of this, which is an 11.6-inch device with some different color options and roughly the same build. And so we're going to take a quick look around the hardware real fast. We do have a matte display, 13.3 inches here. It is 1366 by 768. What would you expect? It's a Chromebook, right? Hopefully we're going to see that kind of change over the next 6 months or so. We're going to see we're already seeing some 1080p screens start to make their way in. Acer's new device coming with the Tegra K1 that I'm insanely excited about, and hopefully I'm not placing too high expectations on it, but it will come with a 1080p screen, which for those of you who are around the channel a lot, you will know that with the Samsung Chromebook 2, that 1080p screen, when I reviewed it, said that I said that there were some scaling issues, and that still will likely be an issue. And we're hoping there's been some conversations of different scaling options in Chrome OS, other than just scaling up text in the web browser. So hopefully that becomes something as higher res displays come. There are some scaling things because it's not a whole bunch. It's just make the icons a little bit bigger. Stuff on the desktop needs to scale with the screen resolution. Right now, the only thing Chromebook can really do is scale kind of to half. So the Chromebook Pixel, for instance, is basically a quad HD display. It's a little different ratio, but basically a quad HD display. And so it actually displays that and scales everything to half. Because if you actually left it to scale, everything would be just so tiny and micro, it'd be hard to even see the icons and get to them and click them. And so it scales it and treats everything as if it's half that, but still keeps everything sharp and looks good. So Chrome does have the ability to do some scaling. It's just a matter of getting these oddball sizes right now in order for things to scale properly. Anyway, just a side note on upcoming display issues that we're going to have when higher res displays start coming to Chromebooks, as they are starting to. We have a nicely spaced keyboard. Again, some of these things are recovering from the unboxing, but travel on this thing's great. Typing on this thing, fantastic. I love it. Love the keyboard a lot. It's nice and quiet. Love the trackpad. I actually have a friend who is an Apple snob. He just cannot stand to use a trackpad on anything unless it's glass because he's become MacBook snobbish. And so, by his own admission. And he felt this trackpad and actually was like, "Wow, that's plastic. I'm surprised," and was actually pretty impressed with it. The feel of it's great and really smooth, really responsive, really wide. My whole hand fits on here, and I have pretty large hands. It's a 13.3-inch display, and I can stretch vertically across it. And so those are some really good things. The interior is made of this kind of slightly textured faux aluminum brushed thing, but there is a texture to it. You can actually feel. It's obviously plastic. But it doesn't collect fingerprints very well, which is awesome because there's a lot of things that do. The lid is a different story. We'll get to that in a second. And you also have a kind of a matte finish around here, which I love. I hate whenever they have shiny things around the display because you touch this all the time. And so it just is a fingerprint magnet on most displays. The display itself, pretty normal fare when it comes to Chromebooks. We're looking at a TN panel here again. So viewing angles, as I bend this forward, you'll see it polarize to the point that you can't see it. Same thing when we move backwards, it'll polarize. Viewing angles to the left and right stay pretty decent as long as you are on angle. So if you're up here, viewing angle to the left and right don't look good. So again, I'm not going to get off on a tangent about how frustrated I am about only having TN panels on everything except for the HP11 and the Pixel. I'm just going to leave that be because you all have heard it enough. But my hope is that we're going to start seeing some better display units in Chromebooks in the near future. That is my hope. Moving on, we have a standard 720p webcam. functions like most of them do. I haven't used one yet that I thought, whoa, this is amazing. Again, the Acer Chromebook 13 that's coming with the Tegra K1 in it is supposed to be Hangouts optimized. I'm not even sure what that means, but it's supposed to allow high def Hangouts on a Chromebook, and I believe that's the first time. So we'll see. We'll see how that pans out, and I'll definitely take a look since they've kind of touted that a little bit more. Most of these they say, hey, it's a front-facing 720p camera. Yay. You can look down in here and see. It's kind of hard with the light. The fans are all actually, or not fans, but probably where the heat kind of can be released. Because even though this is fanless, it's still got to have some vents. You know, it's got to open up and be able to breathe a little bit sometimes. And so they do hide those right down in there. But other than that, it's fanless, it's silent, makes no noise whatsoever. On the side here, let's close it down so we can kind of see some other things. On the side, we've got standard 2.0 USB Kensington port, nothing across the back. Over here, we've got the power, HDMI, USB 3.0, and full-size SD card slot, microphone, headphone jack. So pretty standard port-wise that we've been seeing across Chromebooks. We've got these very small speaker ports, which produce some very thin, not surprising laptop audio creamery. Get your Bluetooth speakers or headphones out when you want to listen to music. But across the bottom, solid. It'd been nice if they'd have covered these little screws up with something, you know, some little thing you could pop out to give it more of a HP11 solid feel, but that's not the case. You got your rubber feet. Nothing out of the ordinary other than the fact that there are no fans, so that's kind of neat. Which also allows them to make a nice, svelte, thin device. And it's light, too. I think it comes in at 2 3/4 pounds, 2.5, something like that. But it feels good. The build feels good. It's not creaky. I mean, probably, yeah, you're seeing that real good. There are lots of fingerprints. The top part is less textury than the inside, and thus it just collects. I mean, you can see it's collecting right now. It collects fingerprints like crazy, and it's really hard to clean, I guess, because of the grooves. So you got to get the cloth and to make sure and wipe vertically, because wiping this way seems to do nothing. So keep that in mind if you're a clean freak kind of person. I mean, honestly, these devices get used, and that's just the way they are. Okay, so again, a lot of standard Chromebook fare on the outside. I do like the build of this thing. If they made this in a 4 gig of memory with the Celeron processor and a nice IPS display, this would be a really, really awesome Chromebook. That's not the case right now, though. So being as it is a Baytrail processor, there's a couple things I wanted to show you about the performance. And I'm going to tell you, I want to show you the speakers. Trying to do that more often now. So this is full volume. So the highs sound fine. But this song will kick in here in a second, and it has this. The speakers on this thing have 0 bottom end on them. Found out the green is cash, don't compare to friends at last. See, we won't forget where we came from. The city won't change us. We beat to the same drum. So again, like I said, not really surprising, but pretty shallow in their sound, as most laptop speakers are. Let's go ahead and we'll run this Octane real quick. And you know, the benchmarks are benchmarks. For those of you who may be new or haven't gotten into tech very much, benchmarks, you know, can show you a lot and give you something to compare across devices. But they're not always indicative of real world, real time, everyday performance. So, as I've said in the Acer C720, the i3 model performance, it beats everything in Octane other than the Pixel. However, really real world performance, it didn't feel much faster, if at all, faster than the Celeron Chromebooks. However, what I do find is the Octane on this one feels pretty precise. This device in day-to-day use feels somewhere between an ARM processor Chromebook and the Celeron Chromebook, and that's actually where the Octane benchmark will fall. I'll let this run. It doesn't take very long. If you're interested in doing this yourself, just Google Octane, and you'll get the link, and you can run this. And basically, I mean, this is the best benchmark we have for checking Chromebooks. This is definitely a lot of web-based technology stuff. So this isn't checking against. I mean, there's some rendering stuff here, but we're not talking about OpenGL rendering, which would be pointless on a Chromebook, right? So we don't really need to know those kind of things. So this is really giving us a Chromebook to Chromebook comparison. I mean, you can run other stuff on Octane as well, but this gives us a Chromebook to Chromebook comparison of the things Chromebooks are going to do side by side with one another, which one's going to be faster and kind of feel a little more swift than the other. And so we're just about done here. And obviously, more powerful devices will run this test a little faster than others as well. And so I want to say we're getting somewhere in the 8s, 7s. That's a little low. And I just restarted it too. So yeah, that's a little on the low side. I was getting in the low 8s for 8,000. And just for reference, the Celeron, and there's going to be side by side comparison with this, an i3 and a Celeron. We'll do some of these types of things, all three of them together. But I want to say the Celeron somewhere around 10 to 11, the i3's around 13,000. So your i3 is doubling the performance here. Celeron is giving it a pretty massive, almost 50% boost. So there's your Octane score. I'm going to open up, what do I want to do? Just go to The Verge. So I use them all the time. Pretty heavy site. We're going to load in a couple sites here just so you can kind of see. And again, for those of you keeping score at home, the site or the internet speed here is about 20 megs per second. So if you're seeing things load in real slow, probably is not the internet connection. I just actually tested it a few minutes ago just to make sure. We're getting about 20 megs down here. So when things are loading in real slow, it's likely the device, not the internet connection. So we're having some time here. You're already starting to see some issues here. Google Plus, honestly, it's workable. Yeah, it's a little stuttery. You kind of see it going and stopping and going and stopping. And that's to be expected on something like this. On a device like this that we're saying, hey, it's a step up from ARM. ARM chokes all over Google Plus. So definitely, this is a step up. Let's move over to The Verge. And again, it's a little stuttery, but it's not doing too bad. But here's what I want to show you. Again, and this is a 2 gig of RAM model. I don't know if they make a 4 gig yet or if they're planning to. And I'm going to open up a game called Murder Files. Run some pretty basic 3D stuff. And so I opened it up earlier when I had, I think, just one tab open. And again, if you've seen my other reviews, this is not indicative of real world scenarios for me. I usually have 5 or 6 tabs open, and I have an IDE open, and I have Ubuntu running in the background, and I've got a lot of stuff going. So this thing for me wouldn't cut it at all. I can't, honestly, I couldn't work from this. It's not powerful enough for me to do that with. So turn the speakers down a little bit. You can kind of see it's going to start painting around here in a second. And what I want you to take note of, if you can see it, the frame rate drops. We're getting skips, and jumps, and skips, and jumps. But real quickly, I'm going to close this web browser out. Look how smooth that gets. So, I mean, that's 60 frames, and we're not dropping. Lag one time there, but it looks pretty good. And so, what this leads me to believe is this is less of a RAM issue, and this is more of a horsepower issue with the processor. If we're doing like single things, if you can resource yourself to where you're saying, you know what, I'm going to do 1 or 2 things at a time on this Chromebook. That's my use case. I'm not going to have a bunch of tabs open. I'm not going to have Hangouts going here and tabs open there and play a game over there. I'm not doing all that stuff. I don't want that on my Chromebook. I want to pick it up off the coffee table, open it, click Facebook. I want to open it, click Twitter. I want to open it and check a website. Then you know what? The performance on this thing is going to be absolutely adequate and will work just fine for you. And even with the 3D game here running, it's doing just fine with this. the ARM ones wouldn't even run this, and I think that's an architectural problem. But I guarantee you, if I could get the Samsung Series 3 to open this, it would choke all over the place on this. So it's telling me, hey, this is a big step up from the ARM processors. It's definitely a leap forward in fanless, thin, small design. It is not a replacement for your work laptop. Whereas I can make the case and have that I work from my HP 14, I've worked from the ASUS C720. Um, those can be work replacements if you can find the right software. They have the horsepower and the muscle to do it. This doesn't, but that's not always the use case for it. So writing some papers, let's open up Google Docs real quick. I know we're getting long here, but this device here is a little bit something different with the different processor. This is really ASUS's first big splash in Chromebooks. Wanted to make sure we covered pretty much all the details here. So let's get a doc open. I just want to open one thing. Again, like I said before, the slowness in loading things is highly unlikely that it's the internet connection. Some of these things are just heavy, and for this Baytrail processor, it's a lot. And so it's still not letting me scroll this document yet. Getting there. And we're still seeing the circle up here, so we're still loading this guy in. Okay, now we're in. And, scaling's decent. But for those of you who are students out there and you're going to be in documents, you're going to be writing papers and doing all those kinds of things, I want to say, yeah, Baytrail will be fine for a student, but then I'm going, if you're in documents, you're in Google Docs all the time, you're constantly doing this kind of stuff, and maybe some of these load in and the cache, it won't take as long, but the slowness here is, for me, it would just drive me insane not to be able to get into stuff faster than this. Let's just try to load in one more just to see how we do here. Well, this one's actually loading one of the Microsoft Office compatibility mode. And this one's much better, much better. I think that other one was a shared document, so perhaps that was why. Some of it wasn't in my drive necessarily. So, hit or miss when it comes to certain things. It can do some basic functions fine. The hardware on it, minus the screen, is great. And I think for casual use or light student use, and so I'm talking like grade school, maybe not even high school in my thought. I don't know. Students may not care if it takes a few minutes to load Google Docs. It's been a little while since I've been a student, but I would think you get into college level and you're writing really long papers and it's pretty involved stuff. We might be getting out of its depth at this point. But overall, for a Baytrail device, my expectations were tempered because of that, and I was actually kind of pleasantly surprised. It's a decent bump over an ARM chip, same-ish battery life. I've got the display cranked all the way to full, and we're clocking at 7.5 hours from now. So the 20 or so minutes I've been using it, we're looking at probably 8 hours with the screen brightness fully up and doing quite a few things on it. So under normal strain, and if you control the screen brightness, you probably would see somewhere closer to 9 hours, maybe out of 9.5 hours. So that's pretty awesome battery life. Again, you're taking a bit of a performance hit. And so you have to decide for yourself whether that is an acceptable trade-off for you. If it's not, then hey, maybe Chromebooks aren't for you, maybe an Acer's for you, maybe the HP's for you, maybe the upcoming Acer Chromebook 13 with the Tegra K1 is for you. Not sure yet. There's a lot of different processors coming. We've got new ARM processors in the Tegra K1. We've got Broadwell supposedly going to hit the market by the holidays. We've got Core i3s now going in. I think it matched with 4 gigs of RAM might be a really nice machine. So a lot of different configurations starting to come. And so it's an exciting time in the world of Chromebooks. Hopefully there's going to be a price point in the model kind of to match anybody's real need once salespeople really get their minds around what it is that a Chromebook needs to be good and run fast. And so hopefully this has helped you guys out. Stay tuned to the channel. We're going to have this versus the ASUS C720 i3 versus the HP 14 with the Celeron up shortly. So you can kind of see them side by side and see some differences in size, hardware, and performance in those. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. Subscribe if you haven't already, and stay locked here. There's a lot more Chrome stuff coming every month. It just seems like more stuff comes. And so I'll try to get my hands on as much of it as I can, give you guys the lowdown. As always, if you have any questions, make sure and put them in the comments below. And hit me up on Google+, any of those things. And I'll try to get you answered as soon as I possibly can. Until next time, guys, have a great one.